Word 100.7 FM. All right, welcome back to Seculo. We are always honored to be joined by our very good friend of the ACLJ and of the Seculos, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who had an opportunity to question Secretary Blinken and Samantha Power about this money that is an aid that is still planned on going to Hamas, even after the atrocities of October 7th in Israel and the ongoing atrocities and the kidnapped hostages that have not been released, including Americans. And by the way, that number keeps going up. It seems we find out there are more hostages. So many people have seen the horrendous images of what happened and how these Hamas terrorists really took over like ISIS, or even worse, committing crimes against children, women, men, and the elderly. And Senator Hagerty took it right to Secretary Blinken. And Senator Hagerty, let me ask you this, and thank you for joining us such a busy time in the U.S. and the world. Senator Hagerty, when you went to Blinken, what did he say? It's not like American accountants are on the ground tracking what Hamas is going to do with this aid, or who's going to get it, and whether actual people in need will ever get it.
Well, they want to come to us and ask for billions of dollars in, quote, U.S. foreign assistance to go into the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is controlled by Hamas. I confronted Secretary Blinken with emails that we discovered, internal emails from the State Department. We received these via Freedom of Information Act requests. I entered those into the record, and I recited to him, exactly what they said. There is a high risk that those funds will be able to go to the benefit of Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization that just launched a murderous attack on the Israelis and killed over 1,400 people. And included in that number were, some 36 Americans that they murdered. So when I asked Secretary Blinken if he could assure me that the aid dollars that the United States has already sent into Gaza weren't involved in supporting Hamas's attack on October the 7th, he couldn't assure me of that. He doesn't know, clearly. I asked him point blank 3 times. And 3 times, I kept coming back to the question as he kept trying to evade it. He could not answer me that American dollars aren't basically funding both sides of this war. That's the last place we want to see American taxpayer dollars spent. I don't want to see a dime of American taxpayer dollars going to Hamas so that they can use that again in turn to kill more Israeli citizens and include Americans in that as well.
Senator, one of the things I'm concerned about is that they appear to be, the administration appears to be totally tone deaf. They announced yesterday that they're starting a task force on Islamophobia. That was the same day that Christopher Wray testified before Congress, saying that the 60% of the hate crimes that are religiously motivated are against Jews. 60%, and they only represent 2.6% of the population. And the response from the White House on that is, let's have a task force on Islamophobia. It appears they're totally tone deaf.
Yeah, I think, it's been called out in the media. I did an interview yesterday with Larry Kudlow. He accurately coined it. He basically said what they're doing, they meaning the Biden White House, are pandering to the far left extreme radicals in their own party. These are the ones that are doing the pro-Palestinian, rallies in the cities and on our college campuses. These are the people that are, basically aligning themselves, with Nazism. And they are so desperate to maintain this quote broad coalition of fringe groups and activist groups that have, certainly radical views based on, where most of America is. But they're willing to do anything to pander to them, to keep them in the boat, so to speak, so that in, critical congressional districts like in Michigan, they're able to continue to use these people. And they're going to the White House. These groups are going to the White House, pressure groups are going to the White House saying, look, we helped you, Joe Biden. We went door-to-door campaigning for you, Joe Biden, back in 2020 to help you win that election. And you're going to lose us if you don't start catering to us. And that's where you see, Kamala Harris come out with this pandering and creating these working groups and all this sort of thing. They will not even say who's at the root of all of this. That's Iran. It's very difficult to get the White House to even acknowledge Iran's role in all of this. And if you saw what happened, with Hamas, that was Iranian funding, that's Iranian technology, that's Iranian know-how that was deployed to murder over 1,400 Jews.
And we were planning on it. We were together, Senator Hagerty, when this attack occurred. And it was shocking, the brutality we kept seeing on our phones, the reactions that were being made, and again, we had never seen Hamas take it to the level of ISIS or maybe even surpassing ISIS. And then, we see Christopher Wray testify very openly and honestly about the issues Jews are facing right here in the United States. That this group of just 2.4 million people face 60% of the religious hate crimes. And the next day, the vice president is announcing this Council on Islamophobia. I think that, one, Americans, even after 9/11 showed, we don't have a major problem with Islamophobia. There are radical extremists on Americans who have bad views on people, but most Americans are good people and respect you if you respect them. Why, again, is it purely politics that they announced this because they don't want to lose the votes from the squad?
Jordan, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's all I can imagine it is. It's politics. It's responding to pressure groups in the extreme radical left that are pushing this. This is un-American, what they're talking about. We have Jewish citizens that are fearful of their lives here in America. Even one of my own colleagues, it suffered a severe threat, Jackie Rosen. And we have got to bring this under control instead of pandering. We need to be standing strong with Israel and with our Jewish neighbors right here in America. It's totally unacceptable when you have these threatening protests taking place in our cities and on our college campuses that are making, young Jewish people, old, elderly Jewish people, anybody of that faith, deeply concerned. And when Christopher Wray comes out, as you aptly mentioned, and highlights the fact that the vast majority of these hate crimes in America taking place on American soil, I don't condone any hate crime. You know that. We're against that.
Right.
At every level, but the disproportionate impact of that on our Jewish citizens and the fact that it's gone up over 400% since October the 7th is alarming. We need to doing something about that.
Senator, there is a movement in the House, passing the House of Representatives, a bill that's going to be a standalone, at least that's the plan, standalone for aid to Israel. The Senate side, your side of the Congress, some have said we'd rather have that combined with Ukraine. What's your view on that? My view is get the aid to Israel as quick as you can, and I'm not opposed to aid to Ukraine either. But I mean, it's just I understand why you'd want it standalone. But what's your sense of that?
No, I think the House has read it right. There's broad support in America, forgetting the radical stuff coming out of the White House. Broad support in America to get this aid to Israel right now. We're watching this unfold on television. We want to see it come to an end. We want to see it come to an end quickly and get the Israelis the support they need to do the job that they know how to do.
Senator, we are working closely with hostage families. And in fact, next week we're going to be in Washington with those families, and we're working with your staff. For you to be able to meet with some of them. These are representatives of the families that are hostages, mothers, fathers, brothers. I mean, they're making it. This is the first time it'll be Israelis coming. This situation with the hostages has complicated a lot of what's going on in the Middle East right now, because there is a lot of pressure on Israel not to go into full tilt war here, and rather, give this kind of ceasefire to get this worked out and see if we can get the hostages out. That never tends to work. What's your sense of that on that front?
I'm completely sympathetic to the concern. I think this is also by design. This is why Hamas took the hostages. I think Iran has, demonstrated their control over Hamas and Hezbollah. Iran was the one that, Iran trained Hamas. They've armed them. They funded them. So I think this is part of the Iranian playbook, and the Biden administration has demonstrated they're willing to put a massive price on the heads of hostages. The $6 billion package that came through put a $1.2 billion price tag on the heads of every American. So we've incentivized the taking of hostages. We've therefore complicated immensely what the Israeli IDF has to do as they move in to try to free the hostages, at the same time put Hamas out of business. But they've got to do both. And it's dangerous, it's complicated, and Hamas wanted to make it more dangerous and more complicated.
I know how serious you take it, how serious your team takes it, your staff. You were immediately on it, making sure Israel was going to get what it needed. These programs like the Iron Dome are joint programs that assist both Israel and U.S. troops on the battlefield. And we are just grateful to have you battling for the United States and for Israel, our ally, in the United States Senate, not just for Tennesseans, which we are, but for all Americans. Thank you for joining us, Senator Hagerty. It's such a busy time in our country.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Dad, I will tell you, I was with him that day. And first, of course, was just the shocking images we all saw. We couldn't believe what we were seeing, even though we've seen Islamic terror before, but at that level inside Israel. But the second thing I saw Senator Hagerty do, and not to give anything away secret, was get right on the phone and start working these situations. These are the kind of senators we work with on a daily basis, and this is why it's so important to support the work of the ACLJ. We're right there with them.
Okay, so we have launched our new Faith and Freedom Drive, and it just started yesterday. We had a great response, by the way. By the way, also, over 2,000 of you became ACLJ champions, actually 2,100 in the month of October. That was phenomenal. Here's what we want you to do. We know we're at an unbelievable moment in history. We know what's going on in Israel. Our team's fully engaged in Europe, here in the United States, in Washington, where we're going to be next week. We've sent already demands to the EU, congressional leaders, and the UN Security Council. We're meeting with the families next week in our offices. We'll be representing some of those before the United Nations. We continue to fight for your constitutional rights. Our lawyers are in court on the 14th Amendment, Section 3 case involving President Trump being on the ballot. They're in court right now. Go to aclj.org/faith and freedom, and your gifts will be doubled. Do it today.
After nearly 50 years, Roe v. Wade, the tragic ruling that manufactured a so-called right to abortion, has been overturned by the United States Supreme Court. This is the moment the ACLJ has been fighting for. It's the biggest victory we've achieved in our 3-decade-long fight against the soulless abortion industry. Extreme abortion advocates are not just going to give up, and neither are we. I thank you for making this victory possible, and I ask you for your continued prayer and support as we continue to battle against barbaric new abortion laws across our nation.
We now have a state-by-state fight. Your support of the ACLJ makes a huge difference. Any amount you donate to the ACLJ this month, we get a matching gift, which means, we've said before, if you donate $20, we get $40. You donate $100, we get $200. We encourage you to do it. Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Everyone knows the old saying, nothing lasts forever. Well, whoever said that obviously never bought a timeshare. Not only do your maintenance fees and assessment fees go on forever, they go up forever. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Over 10 years ago, I was a timeshare salesman. But once I saw the dark side of the business, I quit. I started helping folks get out of the timeshare. Since then, we've helped over 30,000 families by getting them out of bad timeshare. If your timeshare agreement goes on forever, if you were told timeshares are a great investment, or your maintenance fees will never go up, you have questions, we have the answer. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley now for your free information kit. 800-839-8484. That's 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
This is The Word, 100.7 FM.
It's great to have Senator Hagerty. If you missed that, we'll have it clipped and posted for you on places like Rumble and wherever you watch our videos, Facebook as well, and Twitter, X later today. But I do want you to know, I just want to underscore that even when we're not talking about it on the air, we are with those kind of individuals. And sometimes you're just with them having a meeting, and something like Israel happens, and you're right in the mix with a U.S. senator, or 2 or 3 of them that we actually were, and you're part of it, and you then get to continue to be part of it. And that takes us into the work that we're doing next week in Washington. We're able to do all of this and coordinate it because we have had so much great donor support over the past couple of months.
I'll tell you this, we are doing something that's unprecedented in ACLJ history. We've never been able to do this situation like this. This is unique. Of course, it's a unique situation. We're going to have representatives from families of hostages in our offices, and our government affairs team is arranged. There'll be Israeli lawyers here as well. Have arranged meetings with the House Republicans and House Democrats, Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats. We're going to have them on our broadcast on next Wednesday, live from Washington, D.C. So we're going to be able to bring you this kind of information, but it also tells you what we're doing. We are in the process of putting together a complaint to the United Nations. Now you say, well, who cares about the United Nations? Well, we know how corrupt it is, but you've got to be there. It's the Ministry of Presence. And it's going to put the UN in a bit of a vice. And CC Heil is working with our international team on that. We've gone to the European Parliament and got a successful resolution there. But right now, as we continue to fight for constitutional rights all over this country, we've got lawyers in Denver, Colorado. As we're sitting here, they're arguing at a jury trial, judge bench trial in Colorado to make sure Donald Trump, and then it doesn't matter what you think of Donald Trump, but if he's the nominee, that he appears on the ballot. It's a 14th Amendment Section 3 challenge. And we've got that going on right now. We were requested yesterday. Was it Michigan, Jordan?
Yes.
And the Michigan GOP has asked us to intervene in a case there. So we're working on that. We already have it in West Virginia and Virginia. Serious constitutional challenges. All of that's happening because of your support of the ACLJ. So we want you to support our Faith and Freedom Drive. Very important. They'll put it up on the screen for you. We need you now more than ever. The country needs you now more than ever. The same is true for the world. And of course, Israel needs you, but also for free and fair elections. You're needed. Go to aclj.org and have your gift doubled through the ACLJ's Faith and Freedom Drive today. And also, if you can make that gift, let's say you give, $50. If you can press monthly, recurring, you become an ACLJ champion. And that really, it almost like quadruples the impact of your gift. So it doesn't cost you more other than the monthly gift, but it does affect how we operate. So I would encourage you to do that at aclj.org. Matching challenge for the Faith and Freedom Drive, but you can also make that a monthly gift and become an ACLJ champion. Andy Economos in the studio with us. He has been working on these cases involving the 14th Amendment. We are in court in Colorado. I'm not too optimistic on how that court does. I'm very optimistic how we do at the Supreme Court. But this is a huge challenge. And if Colorado were to get its way, an individual elected bureaucrat could remove a candidate from office with no oversight by a court.
That's exactly right, Jay. What we don't want is for the Secretary of State in Colorado to make the decision that unilaterally the Republican nominee, whoever that might be, it might be Donald Trump again, is not permitted to be on the ballot. And the judge out there said that she was, quote, not prepared today, that was when she made the statement, to reconcile the competing theories for how the First Amendment's free speech protections interplay with the 14th Amendment insurrectionist plan. But she said also that there's clearly a conflict. On the one hand, you have people in the 1800s who were disqualified for writing a letter to the editor. That's clearly speech. But now the law has developed. She said you have a body of law holding that standards for finding incitement to insurrection are very high, and the speech needs to be very specific. So she realizes that she's got a balancing act that she has to perform.
Let me tell you, you know where this case is going. If we win, great. I mean, I think we win at the Supreme Court in the United States. Jane Raskin, who is a special counsel to the American Center for Law and Justice and has, Jordan, quite a pedigree. I'm going to play some of her argument in just a moment. You want to go over that?
I want to tell people, too, because we've been telling you about this fundraising effort, how we always want to make sure at the ACLJ as we take on these matters, whether it's a 14th Amendment case like in Colorado. Of course, we've got a team of ACLJ attorneys, but if we need to ever bring in someone who is an expert, we don't want to have to think twice about the cost. We want to just be able to make the call and get them there. They want to do the work. We know who they are, and they want to be part of the team. And now she is a special counsel to the ACLJ. You may remember Jane. We worked with very closely and very publicly with the Mueller investigation. She worked for President Trump and our team, and she also was part of the team defending President Trump in the first impeachment trial. But she is a major white-collar criminal attorney. She's been inside the Department of Justice prosecuting mobsters in the 1980s. So she's been inside the DOJ as a prosecutor. She's been an assistant U.S. attorney as well. And when we said, we need to be bringing the best of the best, even at the trial stage, because we know this is going to go up on appeal, so we have to have a great record. Let's get Jane out to Colorado. And we were able to do it, not having to think about the cost, because of so many of you signed up to be recurring donors, ACLJ champions, and because so many of you take part in these matching challenges. So we add to our team of experts who then work with our team that was already there to take them up at a level.
All right, we're going to go to the Colorado court. This is our special counsel, Jane Raskin, before the court.
As the Supreme Court has recognized, under our political system, a basic function of a political party is to select the candidates to be offered to the voters. Indeed, a party's ability to select its candidates implicates the First Amendment right to association. and Colorado law is entirely consistent with this. As the Supreme Court has...
We're going to play, let's get some more of that too for the days ahead. We're going to keep doing it. There'll be more as it comes. This just gave you a little bit of a taste. So, Andy, it's also a vitally important case.
It's a very important case because it sets standards that are going to be looked at around the country. And we need to set up, as Jane Raskin is doing out there, and I know Jane very well, a record upon which an appeal is going to be taken. Because as you said, Jay, and correctly noted, it isn't going to end with the state court in Colorado. This case is going to the Supreme Court of the United States. And we have a lawyer of Jane's constitutional proportions who is setting a record and creating a record for appellate purposes. And when appellate courts look down, they look at the record that you create in the trial court, and you've got to have a good lawyer establishing that record.
And she'll do it. She's doing a great job. And then I think I'll be arguing that in the Supreme Court, and probably within 6 months is my guess, maybe less. It could be 3 months because of if she rules against us, it could be an expedited review. It could be January. That's how fast this can move, folks. We could have that case and the West Virginia case and the Virginia case right there. That's why we need you as part of our Faith and Freedom drive that we're in right now. I want to encourage you to go to aclj.org/faith and freedom. As I said, the country needs you. We need you. The world needs you. Israel needs you. The election law integrity needs you to partner with us. So we've got the ACLJ Faith and Freedom Drive. Next week, we will have the major announcement as we expand our efforts. I've given you a little bit of taste of it on what we're going to be doing in Israel, folks. Few organizations have the capacity to do this. We have an office in Jerusalem, so your support here is critical.
Yes, and we've been going after Hamas just in the past couple of weeks in Europe through our European Center for Law and Justice that you've been supporting for decades. For such a time as this, such an important time in the United States and Israel. Support our work, donate, be part of the Faith and Freedom Drive. Double the impact of your donation. Go to aclj.org today. We're standing for your rights all over the world.
We are witnessing attacks on our faith and freedoms on a global scale at an intensity we haven't seen in generations. Here at the ACLJ, we are uniquely positioned to meet these attacks head on. We are launching our Faith and Freedom Drive. Your gifts are doubled, dollar for dollar. The country needs you, the world needs you, and Israel needs you. Have your gift doubled through the ACLJ's Faith and Freedom Drive today. Go to ACLJ.
It's that time to give thanks, and one thing I'm thankful for is Zero Res, because I know they're going to have my carpets looking amazing.
With over 11,000 Google reviews, they have a nearly 5-star rating. Look, they know a thing or two about cleaning carpets.
And it's a good time to get back to clean, because you can get 3 rooms of carpet pre-treated and clean starting at just $109.
Plus a free